All right, welcome to Get NIST-y, the series that breaks compliance out of the checkbox trap and turns it into a real security advantage. No fluff, no FUD, just practical strategies to make compliance work for your MSP. I'm Jared Kasner, and I'm joined as always by my co-founder of Blacksmith InfoSec and co-host of Get NIST-y, Michael Zabarski.
Hey, everyone.
Today, we are going to be doing a recap of compliance in 2025, the good, the bad, and the ugly, talking about the things and the trends that are happening as kind of a recap of what we've done or where we've come so far this year as an industry, and also prepping us for our episode in 2 weeks where we'll talk about what we think and are going to put on our prognosticator hats and forecast what we think is going to happen in 2026. So with that, let's start with the good. What's maybe the number one good thing that happened in 2025 from your perspective, Mike?
Boy, AI is everywhere now. It's amazing.
But is that good, right?
No, I think the good is we made progress on compliance. Not everywhere that we'd like to, but there's a lot of things that's really moved forward. There have been a number of updates to frameworks. In the channel, the trust mark is taking more of a hold from GTIA. Um, CMMC finally got passed. There's a lot of really good compliance things that started moving forward, which is great. And we'll kind of talk a little bit about that a little bit more. Other than that, it's all doom and gloom.
No, it's not all doom and gloom. So, like, you talked about CMMC getting passed, right? So I'd say very good thing that Katie Arrington is back in the government and driving CMMC. We saw in November, it's now actually a requirement for DoD subcontractors to be CMMC compliant. And that takes effect, September? So they have to sign, the contracts have to include CMMC starting in November of 2025. And then I think it's September of 2026 where they actually have to be compliant. Is that right?
I think you're right.
So I'd say that is, quite frankly, an unalloyed good thing that happened, right? If we look at the state of our federal cybersecurity world, bridging the gap and forcing the issue and forcing our contractors and subcontractors to be compliant, and more importantly, to actually not just check the box, but have real audits, having a C3PAO come in and actually look at what they're doing and verify that they are doing the things that they say they are doing. That's an unalloyed good. That is a really positive thing. And I'll be honest with you, when we saw at the start of 2025 with Doge and the Trump administration saying they were going to slash and lower regulations, I was a little bit worried about what might happen. And then we see CMMC with Katie Arrington coming back and getting rolled out. Like, that to me is a huge positive that has happened over the past year.
I'm going to be the downer of the group and say, yes, and CISA got cut, funding got cut, and so we've got issues on that side.
Mike, you're missing the point of let's talk about the good first. We're going to get to the bad and we're going to get to the ugly, right? So, but let's talk about the good, right? So CMMC, I think, and Katie Arrington coming back to the government, I can say is an unalloyed good.
Yeah.
What are some other good things that you saw in 2025?
Honestly, a lot of what we've seen from our partners, at least of MSPs taking compliance more seriously, actually having those conversations with their clients, starting to have the business risk conversations and not just the, hey, you need MFA. I think what we've seen from that aspect is the channel really maturing, and there's the channel's kind of split into the super mature MSPs, the MSPs that really want to be more mature and really want to do good, and then MSPs that are just not ready for it yet. They're really still in the break fix phase or whatever other phase they're in. And at least for those top two buckets of MSPs, I've seen a big shift towards, hey, let's actually help our clients develop security programs, help them manage their risk, get the right tooling in place as well. But how do we support the clients in their business initiatives and help solve for their business risk? So I think they're having much better conversations around that.
Yeah, I would say that's absolutely true. And then the flip side, or the sort of corollary along with that, and we had this conversation with Michael Kennedy from LionGuard earlier this year. One of the things that we've seen, not just the MSP starting to push compliance with their clients, but also the clients starting to come and ask questions. A phone call earlier this week with an MSP out of Michigan who said, "Hey, Jared, one of my clients just bought a DoD subcontractor, and now they have to be CMMC compliant. They don't even know what to do, and they're asking us for help, and we don't know what to do." And I said, "Okay, great. We can happy to have that conversation." And we started off with let's make a smaller enclave for and keep that subsidiary or that new business separate so we can just focus on the controls for CMMC on that business, and we'll bring the rest of the business up alongside that. But like let's make sure we understand the scope of controls and scope things down to the most meaningful. Anyhow, we don't need to get into how that conversation went entirely, but the clients are coming to the MSPs, and it's we're seeing that every week. We're getting more and more of those MSPs coming to us saying, "Hey, my clients are asking about this," right? So it's not just the MSPs pushing it; it's the clients asking for it, and we're finding a way to meet in the middle. And I think one of the conversations that we had with Michael Kennedy earlier this year was, is it going to be the small businesses? Is it going to be the MSPs? Is it going to be the regulators? Is it going to be something totally different? And I think we're seeing it's the answer is really all of the above. And that's, I think, again, a net positive for the industry that we are starting to take things more seriously.
Yeah, and it's funny that you brought that up because as you were talking through it, I didn't remember that it was with Michael Kennedy, but I was like, we had a talk with someone about like what's going to be pushing compliance.
Yeah, and it turns out we got some things pretty spot on, and like I said, at the end of the day, the answer was all of the above. And so we'll put a link to that show in our show notes, so you can go back and listen to our predictions from earlier this year with the Lion Guard team. All right, any other good things you want to talk about from 2025?
I think the other good thing is the controls. A high level, generally, the controls that are actually thoughtfully put into organizations that when they're not just trying to check the box compliance are holding. And the MSPs that have invested the time and energy and expertise into getting their clients to the point where they have their security stack, they're actually doing a good job of protecting those clients. And there's always still work to do with the other clients and etc.
All right. Well, I'm going to pat ourselves on the back a little bit in the good category, right? So, according to Spotify, we were one of the fastest growing podcasts of 2025. We won an MSP Influencer Award. To me, I look at those things and I say, yes, it's great. I feel really good about myself, and it inflates my ego a little bit, which I always appreciate, especially when my wife tells me I should shut the hell up at cocktail parties when I talk about compliance. But I think, again, if I'm looking at that as a signaling mechanism, the fact that we are getting that traction, the fact that we are getting some positive results, to me, is another indicator that MSPs and their clients are starting to take compliance and security a little bit more seriously. And that's, again, a really good thing. And whether you're listening to us or somebody else talk about compliance and security, please go out and get that information. This is really the only way that the industry continues to evolve and grow. So yeah, high five, Mike. Nice job. Cool. All right. So let's talk about the bad, and we'll get to the ugly in a minute. And there are definitely some ugly things on here. But the bad, you brought up CISA earlier, the cuts to funding, then they brought the funding back. And so it's kind of on a stay of execution for 11 months. Tell me more about what actually happened there so our listeners can understand.
Yeah, so basically, CISA, which is in charge of nationalizing, if you will, cybersecurity, letting people know about vulnerabilities that are being published, etc. A lot of their funding got cut. It's a really important program to be able to disseminate information for people so that you aren't having to go to 30 different locations to understand, hey, what's the Oracle vulnerability versus the HP vulnerability versus whatever else. And so there was a lot of concern that we wouldn't have this like central stream of knowledge. And as you said, right now it's on a stay, so we're still getting those alerts, which is phenomenal. And hopefully it continues to do that because we need that, right? Or it needs to be privatized. Either way, that service is extremely important for the cybersecurity world to have.
Yeah, we make a lot of noise about how decentralization can be a net positive, and that's certainly the case in some areas. But having a central authority that is actually tracking these things and pushing them forward at the essentially the global level, right? You look at CISA and the CVSS and EVS scores and the way that those are handled today, having that centrally managed, working with MITRE, things like that, are that net positive. And so, yes, we've got the stay of execution. We're already seeing some signs of cracks there because of the decentralization effort that's underway, where companies are starting to grab CVSS numbers without putting scores and calling them on hold without having to disclose anything. So we're already seeing signs of cracking, and this is why I put this in the bad category. Yes, we've got the stay of execution. There is still bad things happening as a result of the changes aligned with that. And it's something that we're all going to have to keep an eye on. And I know I've been talking to Matt Lee and some other folks about what can we do as an industry again, maybe at the GTIA level or some other level to continue to drive some of that good behavior and force companies to be accountable. And at the end of the day, if companies have a known vulnerability and are not patching that or are not forcing their end users to update, then it makes all of us less safe. And so we need to have that, if nothing else, visibility mechanisms. What's the words? Sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? So shine some light on it. Make sure that we are actually disinfecting things and moving forward.
I thought bleach was the best disinfectant. Yeah, and the other part of that is having a mechanism where companies can announce their vulnerabilities, but not be held liable necessarily for having those vulnerabilities, right? Like they need to have some sort of protections so that they feel safe announcing, hey, there's a vulnerability and there's a patch, go patch, right? And so there's a lot around that as well. It was important.
Cool. So I think and we're going to talk about CISA when we talk about our 2026 predictions and what we think might happen. So we'll put CISA on the back burner for now and wait for the 2026 prognostication episode. Any other bad things in the compliance and cybersecurity world that you want to talk about?
I mean, again, going back to AI, has just been horrible for compliance and cybersecurity, like all around, and our lives maybe. um, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean AI I think kind of fits into the good, bad, and ugly category, right? It's all of the above, right? I think anybody who has used AI will tell you that there are things that it does really really well. When I need to write I'll call it angry letter, having it tone down my rhetoric a little bit and helping me get the message across without being a complete jerk is something that it's very good at. On the flip side, it's when I use it to write code. And actually, I mean, this is a good thing, right? When I'm using AI to write code, it helps me and my productivity quite a bit because I can figure out where it's gotten things right and where it's gotten things wrong, and I can work around the deficiencies of the output. When I use it for things that I am less proficient in, marketing, sales, law, I don't know what's wrong, and so I have to not use the output more often than not because I just don't know. At least when the stakes are high, I don't know what's good, bad, and otherwise, and so I have to kind of push it to the side. So there's kind of the bad, and then the ugly. We're seeing just the proliferation of phishing emails and things like that that are unfortunately getting a lot better and more sophisticated because guess what? If English is not your first language and you need it to spit out something that sounds very plausible, it's really really good at that. And we're seeing on top of that threat actors going out and producing AI enabled packages and starting to sell malware as a service, phishing as a service, all of the as a service acronyms that we have in the commercial world, they're taking effect. And I think it's like $600 for a lifetime license to malware as a service. $600, like that's nothing, right? And so when you're seeing a proliferation of things like this, where threat actors and bad people are getting access to this, so the script kiddies are getting much more sophisticated. It's like we're very much veering into the ugly category on that AI side of things, right? So there's good, there's bad, and there's ugly there.
yeah. I think the other two pieces are, and again, this is not necessarily security and compliance related, but just general observation of society. As a society, we're becoming way too reliant on AI, and people are just taking whatever stuff AI spits out at its word versus checking it, validating it, fixing it, etc. And then there's also a lot of issues with just from back going to compliance and security with a data governance perspective, right? You and I were talking about this the other day. I just bought a new printer, multifunction printer for my house. It has HP Scan AI embedded into it, and so when you scan to your email, it can summarize whatever you scanned for you. That's great for me, I guess, if I want it. I've already turned it off. But if you put that into a doctor's office, guess what? All that PHI is going to some sort of AI engine somewhere. HP's not signing a BAA with you. So there's a lot of like data governance issues that are going to arise out of this, and just things for people to think about as they're deploying. And it's not just HP doing it. Konica Minolta has their Scan AI stuff as well. So just being thoughtful about what we put into which offices, what data governance needs to look like, etc., is also going to be key as part of this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So yeah, like I said, I come down very much on the side of I'm using AI every day, but also being very cautious and judicious about what I use AI for on a daily basis. All right, last category, the ugly. I think the thing that comes to mind for me in the ugly category is HIPAA. We saw the government did a great job of actually putting some enforcement mechanisms in for CMMC. The HIPAA enforcement mechanisms that we were expecting to see in 2025 have been delayed, I think indefinitely, the last I saw. At the same time, the one thing that puts this, that maybe helps move this from ugly into potentially even good, is the DOJ has been coming out with False Claims Act enforcements against really a variety of companies, but it has included DoD subcontractors who have just fabricated SPRS scores. They've come out with judgments against biotech and healthcare firms for lying about their compliance. And so the DOJ is sort of picking up where other regulators are sort of falling down under the False Claims Act, False Claims Act around cybersecurity. At the same time, we've seen, I think the statistic I saw was 76% of healthcare companies that had breaches in 2025 had checked all the boxes or passed their most recent HIPAA audit, which tells me that there's a lot of check the box compliance, right? Because these are still things where they're getting in via non-phish resistant MFA, so using SMS, or they're doing things that are just bad practices that are still, right? So HIPAA needs to be made a little bit more robust and also needs to grow some teeth. And I think that's a desperate need here, because something like 30 million patient records across hospital systems and other healthcare organizations in 2025 have been leaked through negligence and breaches.
Yeah, and the phishing resistant MFA is going to become an issue, right? SMS has been an issue for a long time, but now even your regular Microsoft Authenticator apps and stuff, like threat actors, are actively doing session cookie stealing and still bypassing that. And so just making sure you're using stuff like passkeys and stuff that actually tie that device, the MFA, to the MFA prompt, to make sure that you're not dealing with that.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think all of the above. Anything else you want to put into the ugly category?
I think the other piece is going back to AI, the voice cloning, again, making it harder to call someone and make sure that they actually asked for that transaction to be made, right? This goes back to always, when you're calling to validate something, call a known good number that you've used before. Don't call the number in the email, stuff like that. It's just making it very easy to fake voice, fake video, fake emails, etc. And so people just need to be a lot more aware, and just make sure that they follow the rules. First, build out the controls, right? And then make sure you're following those controls. Don't skip it because it's a little bit easier or faster. Make sure you're following those controls so that you don't get hit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a lot of experts have been talking about setting up passphrases. If your family member calls you in distress, make sure you have some sort of authentication mechanism and don't make it the name of your pet. Like, there's a great video floating around Instagram right now talking about password security. It's talking to a college student who says, "Yeah, I've got a really secure password. It's the name of my pet when I graduated from high school." And then the interviewer goes on to ask them questions like, "Oh, where'd you go to high school? Whatever. And when did you graduate?" And so it gets all the information in 30 seconds immediately after this student told her what the password was, and gets it's just like, oh my God, the thoughtlessness of people, right? So make sure that the passphrases you're using to authenticate yourself with your family members, with your bank, whatever, are meaningful, but not guessable, right? So do things that you're going to be able to remember, but that are also, it's the old XKCD comic, correct horse battery staple, right? Find a passphrase that is 4 words that you can string together that are totally nonsensical in sequence, but that you can remember easily because they are so nonsensical, but that nobody will ever be able to guess.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So, Mike, what happens if somebody wants to get their questions answered about cybersecurity and compliance?
Carrier pigeons is the only way we support it now.
Perfect.
That avoids the threat actors. No, so blacksmithinfosec.com/ask. Go on there, pose any questions if you guys have. Jared and I will get them answered for you. If you want to have longer conversations, we're happy to hop on a call and just chat with you as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate all of your support through 2025 and helping us become one of the fastest growing shows on Spotify. We look forward to 2026 and beyond. This will be our last episode of 2025. And then we'll start 2026 with our prognostications and predictions about what's coming in cybersecurity and compliance in 2026. Thanks everybody, and have a wonderful day. Get NIST-y. Yeah, we're